Deep and sincere, wholesome, wholehearted welcome to everyone joining us here on Discord and those watching in other places as well. I am Bhante Warapano, and you can see here the Monk Life Discord community, Sangha. We are gathering together for natural mind meditation. So we can begin by asking the question, what is natural? Well, a rock is natural. A tree is natural. Water is natural. And the properties of these things, and also phenomena, so a storm is natural, the rain is natural, a body is natural. A rock doesn't need to do anything to be a rock. A body doesn't need to do anything to be a body. A storm doesn't need to do anything to be a storm. A storm is a storm in and of itself. So we can say that it's not contrived, it's not complicated, it's not put on, it's not created, it's not convoluted. There's no effort necessary. A rock doesn't require effort. A storm doesn't require effort. A human being, the body being, doesn't require effort. The natural mind doesn't require effort. So, what is the natural mind? Any ideas? What is the natural mind? Opinions, ideas, perceptions. Okay, our experience right now. Is it when it's in the present moment? Well, it's like a rock, isn't it? A rock doesn't need to do anything to be a rock. The mind that doesn't need to do anything to be itself. The experience that doesn't need to put forth any effort or add anything onto it to just be the way that it is. This is a bit different from advertising or making sales or history or education. The mind that doesn't need to add anything, doesn't need to take away anything. The mind in which there is nothing added to it, the mind in which there is nothing taken away from it. To begin knowing about this mind, we have to empathize with a rock. We have to empathize with the water or a cup or a table or a block of wood. It just is what it is. a block of wood isn't going anywhere. A block of wood isn't doing anything. A rock is not, maybe it's not exciting, but a rock is a rock. This experience is this experience. And rather than labeling this present moment experiencing, this direct experience, as being wrong or right or interesting or uninteresting or doesn't make sense or makes sense or anything or anyone or any place or any situation, just the experiencing itself. You just need to get out of your own way. If you can get out of your own way, then that natural mind will be at the forefront. This is a mind of awareness, of direct experiencing, rather than thinking, or judgment, or right or wrong, or good or bad, or more or less, or skillful or unskillful. And our practice is not really to try to stay in this particular state, because it's not a particular state. We're not talking about a particular state or a particular way of being. It's being like a block of wood. It's being like a rock. A rock is not concerned about other people, not involved with other people. A rock is beyond compassion or kindness or meditation or wisdom. The mind is a clear blue sky. So we have to be a rock that recognizes that it's a rock and can enjoy that experience, or can penetrate into that rockness, that beingness. Solidity and clarity. What more do we need? What more do we want out of our spiritual path than this direct experience of solidity and clarity? Solid as a rock, clear as the blue sky. Natural mind. Firstly, we have to be a rock. We have to recognize our rockness. We have to kind of accept it. A rock is not necessarily exciting or interesting or pleasurable or painful. It's not necessarily stimulating. But a rock, if it allows itself to be a rock for long enough, a rock can become jade. First, we have to be okay with being a rock, and the jade comes naturally. It's not through effort, it's not through contrivance, it's not through control or manipulation. It's not through certain practices we do. Just allow this rockness to be. Because this is your nature. It's not the stories, it's not the thinking, it's not the likes or the dislikes, it's not the past or the future, it's not the sweet or the sour, it's not our plans, not our successes or our failures. Not our profit, our success, or our losses. So what do we do? Well, what does a rock do? Do what a rock does. Do what a storm does. Do what the sky does. Do what the breathing does. Trust this body to just be the body. Trust this mind to just be the mind. Trust this breathing to just be the breathing. It's not about a particular amount of time. It's not about understanding or not understanding. Just be natural. Just be you. Just sit. Just breathe. Just be aware. Just be like a rock. Those emotions or thoughts pulling you this way, that way. Bring it into the rockness. Allow those ripples to flow through the stoneness. This is jade being made. In natural meditation, the pulling mind or straining or thinking mind can attend to the bodiness, the breathingness, the just sittingness, the relaxingness. It's not you meditating. It's just nature. The rock that stays on the surface doesn't become jade. It's the rock that goes deep down into the heart, into the core, and maintains its rock nature, its solidity. And slowly but surely, in the breathingness, in the bodiness, in the beingness, that solidity becomes clarity. All of those thought or distraction or experience, they are just the reminder. The deeper the rock goes down, the more those reminders bring us to our nature. With all that pressure, with all that heaviness, with all that pulling or twisting or turning, the rockness is still there, the solidity is there. The breathingness is there, the bodiness is there. It's not about breathing. It's not about a body or mind. It is the nature, true nature. Ever new, always changing, impermanent nature. Jade is not attached to a particular form of solidity or hardness. Jade is ready to be transformed into anything. So also our meditation is not about some experience, some dwelling, some abiding. It's the awareness itself. It's the openness of the nature itself. It's the impermanence itself. It is the mindfulness and detachment, present moment awareness and openness itself. When we practice meditation like this, not just about being aware, not just about the meditation experience, but detachment, renunciation, giving up, letting go, giving away. It's not that there aren't things to do. It's not that there aren't things to drink or things to watch or thoughts to dwell on or people to talk to or places to go. It's not that those avenues aren't there, and it's not that we are restricting ourselves or rejecting anything. Mindful and open and free, giving away, abandoning, putting down completely those people, those places, those opportunities, those ideas, those identifications, those beliefs that we hold. It's not that they aren't there. It's not that they can't be held up, or not a matter of defending them or promoting them. We dare to detach. We dare to abandon. We dare to give up. We dare to be a real rock. We dare to be a real meditator. Stepping back stepping forward, not stepping anywhere. Experience the freedom to not do what you can do. We can enjoy our meditation or feel uncomfortable in our meditation, but we should keep the curiosity, the interest, the investigation to be there. It feels painful. Oh, very interesting. What is that? Feels pleasurable. Oh, what is that? It feels kind of, whatever. What is that? More and more closely, take a look into this nature. Take a look with your mindfulness and freedom to look, freedom to experience. Meditation is not about getting something or understanding something or grasping something. That's what businesses are for. It's a kind of opening to the natural curiosity of reality. Real meditators are people who are concerned with, interested in reality. Not about religion, not about philosophy, not about even a certain practice method, but rather this interest, this sincerity about reality. This Sangha space is an abode of reality. And the container of this community is a container of deep looking, deep experiencing, sustainability of curiosity into this experience. can practice to detach or to abandon or to step back from the outside world. The people, the places, the Discord, the YouTube, the TikTok, and really turn the mind around and breathing in deeply, bring the mind home to the body and look into this body. And in that looking, relax this body. We should understand that this body is the body of impermanence. The nature of this body is impermanence. That means that our meditation is not about breathing or not breathing. Certainly not about breathing in a particular way. But breathing is happening, and that's a kind of curiosity or an access point. But nature is not concerned with breathing or not breathing. Reality doesn't discriminate between bodies that breathe and bodies that don't breathe. Reality is open to breathing and not breathing, and we can touch that, we can experience that now. Whatever it is that we can experience now, whatever reality is, whatever nature is, this is it. Where else could nature be? Where else could reality be? Where else could truth be? Where else could the ultimate be? It couldn't be anywhere else. Okay, so at this time we can open our eyes if they're closed, and we can stop meditating and open the space for asking question or sharing experience. I am quite well. Yeah.
Good. Are you still in Vietnam?
I'm in Vietnam now. Yeah. And our retreat, our 3 month range retreat, will finish on the 30th, I believe. And there will be a robe offering ceremony. It's called Katina. So the monks begin the range retreat, stay in one place for those 3 months, and then at the end, people offer the robes and the basic needs for the monks, robes or sewing
Very nice.
needles, things like that. Traditional. It's very traditional practice.
Yeah, I understand it's monsoon season over there, so lots of rain.
I have a question. Uh, are these on any kind of schedule, or is it just whenever you have time to do teachings and meditation?
No schedule. Just
Okay.
when it's possible, then I try to set it up. I know that is not ideal for some people, but there's also some positive quality to that. We should bring up the meditation mind or that spirit of present moment experiencing and just like tuning in, turning in any moment, right? No contrivance, no schedule, no plan, just to enter in. And that's one of the positive quality of doing it like this. Um, so for now, that's how it is. Sometimes we've had a schedule in the past.
Thank you for the answer.
Hey, is good and evil natural?
Yeah, it's normal when we are attached to our view, then there will be good and evil. But when we are able to be mindful and detached, we will see clearly that good and evil is just talking about skillful and unskillful in terms of our human experience, our human situation. So we should try to be mindful of the body and mind so that we can detach from being a human being. Because, yes, we are the human being, but mostly mostly is not human being, right? Mostly is animal or different environment, weather, hot and cold elements. So human being is just one aspect of our experience, and if we cannot detach from the human being, then we won't understand about the others that are not human, right? That are not coming from the human experience. Good and evil is very dangerous. It is attachment mindset, right? It is the mindset of good and bad, right and wrong, the winner and the loser, or the righteous one and the one to punish and the one to be punished, and this is very dangerous mindset to have. We have to know how to detach from ourself, because what is it?
I think it's called the Dharma wheel.
Yeah.
Well, to call it right's to call it good, right?
Skillful, that's right.
All right. It's just kind of hard to sympathize with a rock when they don't struggle with these things.
Not to sympathize, but to empathize with the state of just being. Just a natural mind, just a direct experience. Nothing added, no attachments. Right? Someone asked before, is a monk allowed to use the computer? And of course, the monk can use the computer, but when they send emails, they cannot use any attachments. And even sometimes the monks, they break that rule. So the point is that the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, right? Dana, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, being generous, following precepts, meditation, and wisdom are to be used only and experienced only, not to develop attachment, right? And right action goes along with the right view, that you are not someone, that your nature is the nature of impermanence rather than permanence. No self rather than self. This is the appearance of a self that is not a self, right? So there is an appearance of a rock, but we know that a rock does not exist separately from anything else or everyone else. A rock is.
So I have a relevant topic to this, monk. I want you to take a look at what I posted in the chat. It's a classic saying by Socrates. I want to hear your analysis of that quote. I think it's relevant to the current discussion.
What is it?
One thing I know, that I know nothing, and this is the source of wisdom of my
Yes,
wisdom.
yes, that's right. So a good lesson, a good recommendation, only don't know. Practice. You know, if you want to know about the truth, then you should emphasize mindfulness and detachment. and you should concern your ego or yourself. And from the Buddhist side, we understand that this is a self that is not actually a self, but it appears as a self, but is not a self. You should concern this with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. You should concern this with doing good deeds, with mindfulness, with detachment. You should concern this self or this ego, whatever you like to call it, and you should help others to concern themselves with doing actions of generosity, living a virtuous life, practicing meditation, developing wisdom, and all of that being informed by wisdom and being in community with well-minded practitioners, well-minded people on the path. It's kind of like to emphasize the opposite of being confident about being ignorant, right? So most things we don't know about. Before I left America to become a monk in Thailand in 2018, I didn't know anything about Thailand. I didn't even know anything about being a monk. I didn't know anything about Asia or Europe, or mostly we don't know anything about almost everything. So this is our ignorance. We don't fully understand about everything. And yet we can be very confident about that. So ignorance is not something to be confident about. But if we can understand that mostly we don't know, that's not ignorance, that's understanding. That's right knowing, or right understanding. And from that place, we can begin to we can start to know about not knowing, which is to start knowing about not someone, about impermanence, about no self, about the unsatisfactoriness of mental and physical phenomena. Not to buy into, not to grasp onto, not to get stuck onto that which is unsatisfactory, that which is suffering. From my side, the theory of Buddhism or the philosophy of Buddhism is mainly about the practice. So if you want to know about the theory, you need to practice. And different strokes for different folks, right? Find what you need to find to help you practice, and that's it.
So that would segue me to my next question. If you could summarize it in, let's say, one sentence, for a high level of consciousness, what comes after nothing?
Happiness is here and now. I have dropped my worries. Nowhere to go, nothing to do, and I don't need to hurry.
I agree. Yeah, I would say the way I would describe it is bliss. I think that's the word that makes most sense to me. Thank you, Muck. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Okay, Sarah Christensen says, on YouTube, where do you see the line between story and boundaries, as in what we create in our mind and what is a natural limit that we hold, if such exists? You may need to explain a bit more, Sarah. But it's kind of like there's an appearance. One side is that there's an appearance of the boundaries of the body, right? This body has certain boundaries. Well, not for long. And even those boundaries are just apparent boundaries. They're not actual boundaries. Our body is with the environment. So there's a kind of created truth. So like buildings, people, places, stories, situations, experiences, these are all a kind of coming together of cause and conditions, a creation. It's a created truth. We can't say that a skyscraper isn't real. A skyscraper is real, but it's a created real. Whereas the original real, or the ultimate truth, is the principles in which those objects or those expressions exist. What they arise from, what they return to, right? So where did this body arise from? It arose from ever new impermanent nature. It arose from everything, nothing. Not something we can say, not something we can explain in words, but we can point to different aspects. Like we can recognize that this cup is a cup, but at its core it is fundamentally impermanent, and that it is also fundamentally not separate from everything. The physical aspect of our brain is limited to understand this. But it's also true. So we can kind of empathize or sympathize with the truth, and that can give us this encouragement or this trust or this faith to start practicing. And luckily enough, in Buddhism, the practice is, okay, start doing actions of generosity. Start being virtuous. And it doesn't need to be that, start being virtuous. Doesn't need to be the Buddhist precepts, but, we need something. You need to get your teeth on something. You can't just go thinking about it and wandering about it and philosophizing about it. What is good? Well, that's going to keep you from doing good because it's complicated. It's contrived. It's putting yourself in a position where you don't have a natural acumen or a natural ability to know what's good and what isn't, what works and what doesn't. And hopefully you do. So don't waste your time. Start doing good. Start doing good deeds. And then we incorporate the meditation or the deep looking, the deep, non-complicated, non-cognitive looking, just the facing, the being with, the experiencing, the opening up to. And through that, we develop a deeper understanding about reality. Naturally. Why? Because when you do good, you feel good. When you are generous and virtuous, you can rest in that virtue. Right? So even though you do have some mental suffering or mental illness, right? Mental illness is such a taboo. Why isn't physical illness a taboo? And in some ways it is, but there's a body, it's going to get sick. There's a mind, it's going to get sick. So when you have a mind that is virtuous, you can rest in your virtue. You can rest in your goodness. You don't need to rest in guilt and shame and blame and this complicated, egoic situation. You just rest in being good and being open. So the mind can simplify and stabilize. And from that simple, stable place, we can do good deeds more. We can practice generosity more. We can be more virtuous. And that stability becomes a solidity. So there becomes a solidness to our presence, to our being, right? And then we can tune into that solidness. We can practice meditation. We can concentrate. We can relax. We can practice natural meditation. We can abide. We can just sit. We can just abide. We can just face. We can just experience. And from that, we start to learn about the principles of our mind, the arising and passing away of thoughts, what we're identified with, what our attachment points are, what our shy points are, what our anxious points are, what our fear points are, and also our positive qualities, what our goodness is, right? So do it or get out of the way. And we should try to practice in such a way where we can really say that and know that that's the true righteousness, not the righteousness of philosophy or the righteousness of trying to figure things out, but the righteousness of doing good deeds with mindfulness and detachment. And mostly we're in our own way. It's not really about the other people. But we do need to be careful what kind of situations, what kind of people, environments that we're concerning ourselves with, because it's going to affect our mind. The number one way that we can detach from the world news or from a feeling of helplessness or from our ego, from our self-story, whatever it might be, is the present moment action of mindfulness. It's just like, what if we were fully in control of the body, right? What would be the most important thing for you to do to not worry so much about the outside world or feel helpless? Breathe. Focus on your breathing. And with that focusing on our breathing, memories, thoughts, outside situations come in, inside situations, feelings come up, and then we're focusing on our breathing and we are detaching or letting go or uninvolving with the reactivity to those names or forms that are arising. And it is difficult. That's why we need to practice seriously when those opportunities come up, because we all have a natural spaciousness in our mind. We all have a natural peace, a natural freedom, a way to make choices, to go to join the meditation group or go to watch some YouTube video that entertains us, right, or some movie. And we have a lot of habit energy and attachment energy, and we live in a society that is not really concerned with mindfulness and detachment. So when those opportunities arise, like a dog getting hold of a bone, we really practice seriously, and then from those moments when we practice seriously, when we extend ourselves, when we go beyond our boundaries, we can concern ourselves more and more with those topics or ways of being or practices that are not solely about our desire or our fear or our mental or physical illness. Right? We can be mindful, we can detach, we can do more good deeds, we can be more generous, we can lift our embargoes on others that have slighted us, or, we seem to be not ideal. I was listening to a talk by another monk recently, a monk from the Plum Village tradition, and he was talking about how, it's not just terrorist actions that happen, but it's also missiles, right? And it's not just missiles, but it's embargoes, right? Like we see in our maybe local environment, someone gets in a fight or gets in an altercation with someone else, and they're yelling and screaming. But in fact, that person had received some real harshness or negativity, traumas in their past, right? These impact points that hit them, and now they're acting out in this certain way. But then also how we can interact with the others, where we restrict them, we put them in a quarantine zone, we put them in an exclusion zone, right? We keep others from having access to them or communicating with them fairly, right? We close our heart to them. That's also a form of violence. So the most important thing we can do is to practice mindfulness and detachment. This is the real power point. Because it's just, difficulty is a stomach ache away. It's not even that you get cancer or you die or something like this happens, or you're in a war zone. It's just a serious stomach ache and you're out for the count. So don't be so serious. Don't grasp so strongly onto these ideas, these expectations, this status, this position that you're in right now. Just be mindful and detach. Just be mindful and open. Finish, end. All these involvements, all these endorsements that you're giving to this way of thinking and that way of thinking and doing this and not doing that. And we should certainly try to help the others as well. Very powerful practice that we can do. So Shaz asked a question, what kind of advice can you give for someone who has chronic fatigue? Get up and walk and get up and move. The reality is that if we sleep a lot, we will be more attached to sleepiness. If we eat a lot, we will be more attached to eating. If we, whatever we do, the more that we do it, the more we will attach. So if you want to detach from being tired all the time, detach from sleeping now, right? You don't need to go to sleep. You don't need to follow, some kind of mental schedule about, this is the time I go to sleep. Sometimes there's practical reasons. So try to exercise your detachment from sleeping. And it's not that you fight against sleeping. It's not that you reject sleeping, but you renounce it. You feel sleepiness, but you kind of detach from that. You renounce it. You don't believe in that. You don't indulge in that. You don't follow that. And you won't always be able to exercise that, especially if you have kind of chronic fatigue. So when those opportunities are there, when there is that little bit of extra space, just walk, just go for a walk, or don't go to sleep. Keep yourself awake, right? Not in the perfect way, but just where your problem point is. So that's where you put your strength to detach. Also, overeating can lead to a lot of fatigue and the types of food you're eating. If you're eating, 3 full meals a day, you're going to be tired a lot of the day, I think. You're going to feel a lot of tiredness.
I have a question.
Okay.
Breathing is something that we often consider natural, but if we think about it, everything that is natural. I feel like natural is a concept that most people will use to describe things that are untouched. But untouched by who is the question. It's like, to me, it's a very human-centered idea of things that haven't been influenced by humanity. But humanity is also a part of nature. Just being, existing is the natural mind, the original mind. So, I'd like to hear your thoughts on how to use your breath as the focus of your meditation, of your present moment awareness, without becoming too attached to it. How can we distinguish that from becoming overly attached to our breath and our bodily sensation?
So the main thing is non-contrivance. This kind of being natural is a matter of not being contrived. So not adding anything extra onto what is. The moment that you do add something extra onto what is, that's also what is. So we're not rejecting what is, but it's more and more uninvolved, more and more non-contrived. In breathing, just breathing. And that breathing is beyond and inclusive of breathing in a certain way, controlling your breathing or not controlling your breathing, comfortable breathing or uncomfortable breathing. And it's even that just breathing is kind of saying too much in and of itself, but it's just to give a point. That just breathing is inclusive of just breathing, but it's not about just breathing. So we can also say that the main point here is the present moment action of mindfulness. The present moment action of experiencing or noticing or not anything in particular. And that present moment action of mindfulness is not about breathing, right? Mindfulness is not about breathing, but it's inclusive of breathing. Awareness is not about the body, but it's inclusive of the body. Awareness is not about the mind, but it is the normal way we talk about mind, but it is inclusive of the mind. Awareness is not about the planet Earth, but it is inclusive of the planet Earth. This is why a lot of spirituality or kind of a deeper perspective or deeper thinking about reality or truth can sometimes be co-opted by, things that seem very strange and out of order. Like why would this be spirituality? DMT realms and life is reality is a simulation, or that we're star seeds, or we're these kind of very contrived, convoluted, complicated ideas. All right, this is not about a complicated idea, but it is really profound. It's really uncomprehendable, and yet that's reality. So there are all these created truths, and one is not higher than the other. For a particular purpose, one is more skillful than the other. These created truths, or these objects that we're working with, mental or physical, for a certain purpose. And we're human beings, so we have certain purposes. We have certain experience that we live within. But the nature of all these created truths is not someone, not some place, not some situation, not some time. And this is pointing to an experience rather than an idea or a philosophy. That's why I was saying before that the philosophy of Buddhism is really, it's just about the practice or stemming from the practice. The philosophy in and of itself is not Buddhism. The religion in and of itself is not Buddhism. It's the practice, right? The practice leading to enlightenment, or the practice leading to the development of more and more wholesome states of mind.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we want to get to a point of ordinariness, but this ordinariness is profound, right? And in that profound ordinariness, there's great responsibility and great power, right, to effect change in the body and mind, and also in the world and in the body and minds of others. So the relative and the absolute are they're coming together, they're going together. But we need to understand that they are neither separate nor the same. They are not equal.
Non-dual, right?
Non-dual is non-dual in and of itself, yeah. But it comes back to just going for a walk, being human, being normal, being ordinary, right? That's where the power is in the practice.
And that would be the non-dual, the ego and the self. So that means to be the ego, be the self, and then have the unity between the two.
It's drinking the ocean in a single gulp.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
cutting through the mountain with the whiskers on your eyes.
Mm-hmm. The everything and the nothing.
Precisely not that.
So, I guess being aware of it, but not focusing on it in particular, not focusing on a particular bodily sensation like breathing. It's more so just being aware of it, but not focusing on it. It's acknowledging that it exists, but not that it is the focus.
But you're inclusive of that. So don't allow focusing on breathing to be an attachment point. Don't reject focusing on breathing. Focusing on your breathing is a very powerful and important skill. But don't attach to focusing on breathing. Don't confuse being mindful or being aware or the path or the truth or meditation with focusing on breathing. Focusing on breathing is just focusing on breathing in and of itself. Don't need to add anything to it. Don't need to take anything away from it. You just use it without attachment. You just experience it as it is. The development in the meditation it's humanistic, really. So it's about consistency and continuous practice. It's also about meeting enlightened people. It's about being in community. It's about eating, sleeping, and using the toilet. So focusing on breathing is okay in the midst of all that. We don't need to reject focusing on breathing.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, I have a question.
Okay, Brian.
Okay. So, how do you prioritize how you spend your time of day? Like what you choose to spend your attention on?
Coming back to the present moment is most important. In Buddhism, we have something called the five hindrances. So in these five hindrances, we have ill will. So if I feel ill will, what should I prioritize? To calm ill will, right? To have and to relax, right? If you're ill will, then you should prioritize to calm ill will. Another one is sloth and torpor. So laziness, tiredness, right? If you're having laziness and tiredness, you should prioritize to go for a walk, put some effort forward, right? Do something that is wholesome and engage, right? Another one is restlessness and remorse. So what should you do? What should you prioritize if you feel restlessness and remorse? You should relax, right? Don't be so restless. You need to calm yourself down. Another is doubt. So if you're in a state of uncertainty, then you should do something that you're certain about, right? You should do something that inspires your faith or your confidence. And then sensory desire. So if you're in a state of sensory desire, meet it and finish it, or practice meditation, right? Focus on your breathing, or to let go of that desire, to see it as being ephemeral, not so important.
So I would sum it up as you need to take an action or have a reaction that will bring you back into balance and back into a calmful place. Would you say that that can essentially be applied to all those examples you just gave?
Yeah, be mindful and come back to present moment awareness, come back to present moment breathing, and probably a lot of the times you just need to relax, but not a lazy relaxedness, or a like a hiding from yourself relaxedness. You're really embracing yourself. You're practicing something. You're attending to yourself. You're being mindful of that present moment and being the caretaker. Right? You're taking up that essential responsibility. And if you do that, then whatever you do is generally going to be okay or well informed. And in that experience, just that experience. Now, if we are concerning ourselves with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, or if we are concerning ourselves with a real community of practice, if we are concerning ourselves with meaningful teachings to help us lead a skillful life, if we are concerning ourselves with the notion that truth is real, or enlightenment or freedom from suffering is possible, then we will be safe to do all kinds of things. But if we are not informed, if we are not supported in how we live our life, then it's likely we will kind of spiral. We will get into these states where we're isolated, we're grasping onto a lot of non-practical, complicated thinking, we are in a crisis of meaning, and we're just trying to run away from that as much as possible. We don't feel that we have that support. So we have to stay concerned with what is shown to support us. We've got to stay with our tribe. That's human. It doesn't need to, it's not about Buddhism, but we need to have community. We need to have well-informed teachings. And we need to have faith that whatever suffering arises can be a source of freedom.
Bante,
Yeah.
you spoke in the beginning about nature, and I was just wondering if, in my thoughts, I think everything is nature. You were talking about the nature of the rock, and it made me think of trees and like just that everything is nature. Like cities are just as natural as a forest because it comes from the same nature. They're all interconnected. Even artificial intelligence is nature. Even plastic is nature. Pollution is nature. Yeah, that's just some things I was thinking about.
So there is the name and form nature. Name and form nature. And these can go together. So plastic, name and form. City, name and form. Natural nature, or trees and rocks and rivers, right? Name and form. Then there is the true nature, or original nature, which is not someone, not some place, not some time, not some situation, not some experience, not good or bad, not right or wrong, even not skillful or unskillful. So this is what we can learn from a rock, because a rock is singing the song of ever new impermanent nature. Everything is, but we will be easy to get caught up in name and form, in the taking drugs or alcohol. We will be easy to get caught up in name and form by having a attachment relationship or a desire relationship that is not careful about, not mindful about. Whereas with a rock, or with our meditation practice, with a real meditation, the name and form will not be reliable, and you will be able to experience the unreliability of name and form. So then you are natural to turn towards your nature, which is not someone. Right? Even when we feel a stomach ache, or we feel strong sensations in the body, painful sensations or mental experiences, right? The reality is that is just the sensation in and of itself. It's just the feeling in and of itself. There's not someone there. It's like this body right here. This is not really someone. This is just the body being the body, is name and form, right? And my mind and my story. It's just name and form. It's an appearance, but it's not the ultimate. It's the clouds in the sky, but it's not the clear blue sky. Not separate. That clear blue sky is inclusive of the name and form, but it is not the name and form. You can't name it. You can't form it, but it is open to everything. It is brightening everything. It is finishing everything. Boundlessness. Right livelihood in a capitalist society. What do you mean by that? So, in right livelihood, or in being mindful, or in doing good deeds, we're not trying to fix anything. We're not trying to control anything. It really comes back to this place of generosity. This is why making donation or volunteering is so important. You're not buying anything. You're not controlling anything. You're just doing, you're just giving, you're just volunteering. Because the reality is you cannot control name and form, or you cannot control ever new impermanent nature. You cannot control reality, but you can detach. And by detaching, you can know about the truth. And then you can be a sovereign of truth, or a practitioner of truth. You can shine the light on the others, right? You can help in the deepest way, in the most profound way, in the most skillful way, when you know about the truth. But otherwise, we may have an idea about right livelihood, or how we support ourselves, how we make money, and we may think, well, I need to control the society to have right livelihood, or I'm trying to provide for myself, but it's within a capitalist system, and that's somehow wrong, so I can't have right livelihood. But we have to detach from the society, from capitalism, and we have to focus on helping the others, on doing good deeds, on being generous, on volunteering. If you have a livelihood that is not actively hurting the others, like selling arms, either weapons or human arms, probably wouldn't be right livelihood to sell body parts, or selling poisons, or doing things like that, or maybe the production and distribution of alcohol, that might not be right livelihood. But otherwise, you do your best, and you act from this place of generosity. Even though there's an expectation there, even though there's some feeling of you get something back from what you do, you just do. You just give. You just do. You just practice. Right? It's like, even though we have some idea about meditation and how it's going to help us, how we're going to develop from it, we just do it. And that's how we can really practice deeply. You're not going, what you do, you will get back. Cause and effect. Doing your best.
Volonté. I don't know if you know the word volonté in French. It means, I don't remember the word in English, but volonté, when we start to meditate, we need to have that first, it's not like a desire, but to continue because it's difficult. And so that energy of keeping going in the right path, and like you were saying, like, if you're tired, go to do a walk. But if you're tired and you're resting, it takes that energy to walk and to put you on your feet and go through the city. So we never talk about that energy, but it's so important because we could imagine and want a lot of good thing and be a good person and liberate from suffering and things like that. But if we miss that little portion of continuing, well, we fail all the time. And I need to have more volunteer, but I don't remember in English.
Volition. Volition.
Volition?
Should be volition, yeah.
Hey, and how can we get more of that volition?
Volition.
Volition. Is that it? Volition.
Volonté.
Volonté.
Volonté. Yeah, it's like you decide to
Volonté.
exercise, okay? And
Will.
Will.
volonté,
Willpower.
yeah, so
Willpower.
oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Well, you've got it. You're expressing it now, but how do we get more? We get involved. It's cause and conditions. It's the environments we find ourselves in. It's the directions we go in, right? It's how we use our will when it's there so that over time we're developing, and we're ready to make use of opportunities when they arise. That's a big part of these events, hosting these events, and how I manage them and organize them and how I try to speak and how I try to create the container is to bring that will. Because if you go to a temple and you go sit down and there are 20, 30 people around you sitting with you and you're in this big meditation hall, etc., there's a natural sensitivity, and that will or that volition is going to come up because you're kind of trapped in there, right? And you have the will to be free or escape or understand. And now we are in the online space, so it can be more difficult to bring about that energy, right? That will, and that's what we need to practice, especially when it's real meditation like what we're trying to do here. It's not easy, but we try to use the power of each other as well. So if we are in community, if we have Sangha, then we can support each other. We can inspire one another, for that will, for that volition, that energy. And once we practice with it more and more, we will see the positive effect, and then we will have more faith, But generosity also goes in, for me, generosity also goes in with faith, because we have to show up somewhere and kind of have to be generous or open enough to listen and not to just grasp onto our initial idea or our initial understanding. We have to be generous with the sensations in our body or the thoughts that come up in our mind, where it does come up, but we're willing to kind of give that away and just keep looking or try, right? And don't just believe or grasp onto the first thing that comes up. And that's really where the great breakthroughs or the great developments will come in our meditation practice, is when this willpower deepens and develops and becomes bigger, but in the right way, with the right understanding. Because willpower by itself is not inherently a skillful thing. People can have a lot of will to do a lot of wrong. So we have to have the kind of right understanding, the right view in which to apply our will. So generosity, virtue, meditation, doing good deeds. for me, a lot of my experiences of volition or will, being inspired and coming up, has to do with just putting myself in environments where I wasn't in control, and I did want to be there. It was my intention to be in that place and learn from that environment, but I wasn't in control, and I didn't know what that environment was, and there was a vulnerability there. And through that vulnerability, I felt the energy or the inspiration or even the anxiety to push me to say, okay, like I'm going to show up. I want to practice this. It's one of the good things about sharing your camera here when you join, right? Is you feel on the spot, you feel exposed, and there's a lot of power in that. It will invoke your will. And then with that, you apply your meditation method. And it really does work. We can even feel joy, right? Anxiety can very quickly turn to joy when we show up in the right way, in the right place.
It's so true because I felt exactly what you said. First, it was so difficult sometimes, and I was not generous with me because I was saying to myself, oh, anyway, you will fail again, and you will do that again, and you will continue to drink, and you will I was all the time telling me no generous thing to myself. So I think we have to be also very with the will, and not it's hard to understand and doing all those things, but I think that we are doing that in this we talk about all those things. It's just that we forgot to practice those things when we're alone.
Yeah, we forget. So we recognize that we forget, and that can inspire us. Okay, we need to concern ourselves with the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. We need to concern ourselves with community of practice.
Thank you.
We're okay to concern ourselves with Samsung and iPhone, or Windows, or Toyota, right? Or our car, our possession. So why are we so hesitant to concern ourselves with Buddhism, or living virtuously, or doing actions of generosity, or following precepts? Let's give it a try. And this is a lot cheaper and a lot more valuable than the latest iPhone or, computer or car. I'm not sure if Dilipa is still here, but Dilipa asked on YouTube, if distracting physical pain is there, should I take precautions to avoid it, treat it, especially if I'm a beginner, or simultaneously try to incorporate pain into Vipassana? The best take on pain that I've heard is, so find your meditation position, if you've got one, sit in that position, do your meditation practice, and allow that pain to arise if it does. It's okay. Allow it to arise, and then as it's arising, you can practice to be mindful of it, but not attached to it, right? And then you notice that there's that reactivity to the pain. It says, oh, I don't like this. Oh, I need to move. You notice that, and then you go back to mindfulness. The moment that your mindfulness is, the moment that you're somehow fighting with your pain rather than just being aware of it, but you're now in a kind of conflict with yourself about, should I move, should I not, this pain, ow, ow, ow. Just move, right? It's the same with an itch. One of the nuns here would say, if you get an itch, don't scratch it. That's your ego. That's fine. But you can also, get an itch, scratch it, and go back to meditating. No ego necessary, right? So just keep practicing, and meditation is not a place for us to get into conflict with ourselves. And Buddhism is not all about meditation. The gold standard for the path to enlightenment, okay, which is the Buddhist system in many dimensions, is not just about meditation. It's about doing good deeds. It's about being mindful in daily life. It's about being a generous person. It's about opening yourself throughout your daily life to what's happening. Not according to your thinking, but according to your experiencing, according to your mindfulness, according to your virtuosity, your precepts that you're following, that you're committing to. And I think it's okay that we feel shy about emphasizing this or living in this way, because it may not be normal for the people that are around us. And it may not be a normal way for us to view ourselves. But that shouldn't keep us from emphasizing it and practicing it. Right? Being shy or kind of questioning about doing good deeds or being generous should not prevent us from doing good deeds or being generous. You just do it. And the more that you just do it, the more you'll be skillful at doing it. And if you're a 16-year-old kid living at their parents' house, living with their family, doing good deeds can just mean cleaning your room and cleaning the living room and mowing the lawn and doing actions of generosity, right? It can just be giving $5 to a homeless person. It can be giving a gift to a child. It can be anything. There's so many things that it can be, but we just prioritize it. We remember it. And then when we're walking around in our life or going to work or in our relationships, we're considering about generosity. We're considering about being a virtuous person, following the 5 precepts or whatever virtue means to you. We're considering about being mindful. And we are informed by and taking refuge in Thich Nhat Hanh, Ajahn Brahm, the Buddhist community of monks and nuns, wise people, Shifu Sheng Yen, whoever it might be, this Sangha, this community, right? Not just the daily world horrific events that are happening in the news, or our traumas, or those people that have hurt us, or the fears that we have, or desires that we have. So we restructure the mind. So that we can recognize, so we can remember, the mind is a clear blue sky, and a beautiful day is a rich opportunity for a beautiful walk. That's it. That's life. Offering a smile to someone, offering some patience to someone, offering some gentleness to someone, offering some forgiveness to someone. These are also actions of generosity. And also to detach, to not do that thing, to not buy that beer, to not overeat or eat at all, or to eat right? If you are attached to not eating, then you should eat. If you're attached to eating, then you should not eat, right? Exercise your practice of detachment, of mindfulness. Okay, and Sarah Christensen says, what's the difference between real meditation and not real? Real meditation happens in the present moment. Not real meditation happens in the past or in the future or in your complicated thinking. Real meditation is not about someone, some goal, some place, some time. Just experiencing. It's pointing to authenticity and a sincerity of detachment. Not just mindfulness, but also detachment, also this opening, this non-expectation, and this fullness, right? So it's not a exercise. It's not like a jog that we're going on. We're not listening to a self-improvement meditation app or self-improvement guided meditation. We're touching reality. We're opening to the essence of everything. That's real meditation. And it's not necessarily that we're floating on cloud nine or it's this big, blissful, ecstatic experience, but it's an experience that's very authentic, and there's this essential quality to it that anyone can see for themselves, can feel for themselves, this unspokenness. All right. So let's finish with sharing the merit. When we meditate and listen to the Dhamma and in Sangha together, we make merit. It's a good deed, so there's good effects. After we meditate, usually we feel good. Sometimes barriers or boundaries come up, but they're temporary. But doing good deeds, we have the good effects. And we don't just want to keep those good effects or those merits, those blessings for ourselves, but we can dedicate those merits out towards all beings, and we can practice that together. Okay? So let's all bring our hands together. And also, if you're here in Discord, you can unmute your microphone. Everyone can unmute so we can hear each other a little bit. And everyone, you can repeat after me. May all the merits that we have done till now
May all the merits that we have done until now
be dedicated and shared out
be dedicated and shared out
toward all sentient beings.
toward all
sentient beings.
May all sentient beings
May all
sentient
beings
rejoice and share in our merits.
rejoice and share in our merits.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May it be. Hallelujah. Okay, thank you, my friends, my fellow practitioners, for joining, and look forward to practicing together again soon. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhante.